Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. I haven't quite found a place to that's car free at the moment, but at least it's not as warm as before. I'm gonna get too warm today. So yes, it does seem that the heat wave, at least over here, seems to have passed. It's still got a little bit of an aftermath, you know, British summer and all being somewhat unpredictable, but for the most part, it seems that it's normal. I'm still not wearing my jacket again, but there you go. I should have worn this yesterday, actually, for the sake of Mario and such. But yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, I'm back here in Crawley, and we almost weren't here because I was initially somewhat confused as to the fact that that my mum said, oh, we're going to take, your brother's travelling up to Liverpool, so we're not going to be able to be around here. Which to me seemed like two isolated events at the time. Then I realised she was planning to go up with him, and then it's like, oh yeah, fine, fair enough, makes sense. Yeah. Even I can be slow sometimes about these things. As I can be slow about the fact that, oh yeah, I'm just going to turn around and get off a slightly more crowded road. There's definitely not going to be any cars around here, are there? Yeah, that was obviously not going to happen. But yeah, I don't know. I am also somewhat out of it right now. I'm in the middle of another binging Mutant Girl session with one of the the new editor that we have. Citrus Animations has graced us with her, animations. I'm going to head this way, for it is quieter. So yeah, when season 3 finally actually emerges, and we actually get round to it, then of musical, that is, we have another person to thank for being able to actually bring it to life. Particularly for that scene, which, granted, was a rather bold way of starting, quite honestly. Again, I think it was before I started trying to fight back the urge to go nuts with visuals. Because eventually I end up being of the mentality that, oh, well, you know, we're going to, if there's a visual we can't do right now, we will find a solution to it. And if we can't think of one ourselves, we can look up a tutorial or something along those lines, or one of the other editors can do something. So yeah, I'm starting to realise more and more that some of the blame for the delay of the editors does actually lie on me. Although that being said, now that everyone's out of school and such, we're having a much easier time, and obviously I'm not bogged down by musical productions or anything of the sort. Because yeah, we definitely need to get a move on with things, because I think we're at the once again at the biggest gap between episodes. I did say that I think it took a year between season 2 episode 5 and season 2 episode 8 to come out, but that's also including Through Her Eyes. So depending on how you look at Music Girl releases, that either includes or doesn't include the other one. But yeah, it's interesting, because actually one thing that Citrus did actually say was that how many episodes of this are there, and how many seasons have we done? By the time we were like in season 2 episode 6, it's like almost half. Oh no, episode 4, so almost like halfway through. And yeah, then she was like, oh, that's not fair. So on one hand, I'm grateful, because that means, you know, she's invested, and I've done that right, you know, once again done right by another person who seems to actually favour season 1, which is rare nowadays for someone to favour the first season when everything was much less polished and structured. Although we'll get back to that in a second, actually, because there is some sort of fine print to those things. Trying to find the least car-ridden way. What else was I saying? Yeah. So that was going on behind this, just behind regular scenes and stuff. And but of course, the main thing that happened yesterday was, of course, the 9-year anniversary. I need to stop doing the thing where I like delay the big thing for someone that is like in the title or that I want to discuss. I just like give people like little morsels at the beginning, you know, just un aperitivo, a starter before we dive into the main course. I don't know why I just end up doing that a lot of the time. Maybe it's good for watch hours or something. I don't know. Anyway, point is that yesterday was the 9th anniversary of my YouTube channel. And that was when we actually did the stream involving a compilation that I requested that someone else put together. Aiden, of course, stepped up to the plate, and that it was meant to be, people's favorite moments of videos of mine, or ones that I selected myself and had decided, okay, well, this one should be put in so that we can show different moments that were like very instrumental and made a big change either on the channel or just in my life in general, so I could really have something to talk about. It's not going to just be like, oh, I'm going to put in a part of Colmenar Viejo episode 6 or Legend of Tid, I don't know, episode 1 or something like that. It's like, those weren't really significant, really. Actually, Legend of Tid did have a few moments that I neglected. Like, it was the moment when I finally sealed that promise that I made of which games I was going to upload from the very first episode I ever actually did. And I suppose it also was the first time that I really acknowledged a fan of the channel. Well, I mean, apart that wasn't someone like Adri, for example. But yeah, someone who I actually end up coming across on Google Plus of all things, which shows you how old that series was. So yeah, I guess maybe there's a story behind that one. But yeah, maybe for next year, because there seems to be a cry for another compilation next year, especially assuming that there was a lot of stuff that actually got left out. But that was for good reason, actually, as I've discovered later. So basically, the inspiration behind that particular compilation idea was the 10-year compilation that the Game Grumps reacted to on their channel about a week or so before. So I was very much stuck as to what I should actually do for the anniversary. But yeah, so in that one, they took several long clips, well, not long clips, like relatively middle-length clips of some of their content. And they basically did, and they basically had like a story behind some of the different shows that they'd done, like there could be a few like major like comedic moments in between, and they were handpicked and something like that. I'm not sure. That was the idea. But then also they had a few people who had sent in a few thank yous to them. People like, I don't know, Jacksepticeye, Crank Gameplays, etc., etc. And it was people who had been inspired by the Game Grumps throughout. I wasn't expecting that part. The only mention I made in the community tab was that I just wanted like moments so I could, tell stories and something and celebrate with everyone. That was really all I was after. But lo and behold, because you lot are amazing and went above and beyond, I later discovered there's actually a whole group chat on Discord that was doing this. So shout out to everyone who was involved with the #JacobIsOver party. Which is weird for me, Jacob, to say, but I don't know, whatever. point is that the people end up doing that part anyway, the whole thank you section. And yeah, a lot of people who were there, they weren't like, you know, inspired by me to like make their content or anything, but it does seem that I've actually, it's with me to like phrase this, but it seems that I've inspired them in some way, or, you know, helped them improve or evolve, or I've taught them something over time. So obviously I'm not the person to really like validate that or not, because that's something that I can't really say like, oh yeah, I objectively improve them or something like that. It's like, no, that's for them to say, and that's for, if you want to see that, then I guess check out the latter half of the stream to really cover those bits. But yeah, needless to say, there were a few people who did that, and that was like covered towards the end. It wasn't like spaced in the middle like in the Game Grumps one, but it was towards the end, and it was definitely a surprise. I mean, part of me was like, I hope people don't feel pressured to do that kind of thing just because it was in the original Game Grumps thing. That's not what I was after, but it seems like they were all delighted. There were, you know, faces old and new, and I suppose rendered as well, because there was some people who was like their gacha characters and such. There was like a really good mixture in there. So yeah, needless to say, that turned out far better than I was expecting, and it also leaves me the option to do another compilation next year, because most of the stuff that I was aiming to actually have in there that I gave to Aiden as a list didn't end up in there. Again, for good reason, but, you know, just give me something to do next time. So it all worked out for the best. And yeah, I was very happy. And then we went right back to binging the Mutant Girl again. So it comes full circle. So yeah, it was, I do say, I like being around there for when people watch the Mutant Girl for the first time sometimes, because you always get a different reaction from people. You know, in some situations, you know, you get some people, some people like, you know, really not taking a liking in the first season, and then developing people reacting to the Felix twist in ways that are more verbose than others. Some people siding with one side of the boys versus girls argument versus the other, which again leads people to actually be able to discuss that, which was the whole purpose of me introducing that plot into the actual series. I wanted people to actually start talking about this phenomenon because it goes unmentioned. And yeah, I planted the seeds of like why Judas was angry, and yes, it did actually inevitably devolve into what fueled the initial wave of Rayna haters, which was a mistake on my part. What wasn't a mistake was the fact that, guess what? There are still new viewers out there finding the Mutant Girl all the time, and they're still talking about it. So yeah, I guess that's like one teaching that I have, is that, you know, gacha videos, gacha shows can raise discussions, and they can keep evolving, and they can keep having different reactions to different people over different times. Although, of course, the one thing that remains universal is that everyone wants to kill Pop. That's just a fact of life at this point. On one hand, I'm like, oh, you know, this poor teenage girl, basically, that is clearly misguided in life and just hasn't quite figured out the why it is that, you know, she's being not only destructive for others, but also self-destructive because she's so arrogant, hasn't learned any better, and blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, I'm like, yes, I succeeded. I got the reaction. Because how many gacha bullies in 2019 weren't just like stock characters that either like insult you like on a very superficial level, or just like beat you up randomly for no reason? Although that does go into the argument I had before about gacha characters, like the main ones not being relatable and identifiable, because we don't get to see them at their at their happiest, or see them with their different personalities to actually care about them in the first place, and that whole thing maybe like feeds into the antagonist as well. So yeah, it's a mixed baggage basically. But yeah, overall, you know, once again, that's a topic of discussion. I keep trying to tell people, you know, even some of them who checked out the anniversary and weren't really into gacha and stuff, that gacha has merit as a form of storytelling. As Citrus said, it is stop motion animation when you boil it down as an art form, or it's tweening, depending if you want to do tweening, and that's the whole separate choice that one can make. But yeah, core gacha is stop motion, but yeah, I keep telling people, like, despite that, the people that say, oh yeah, you know, hold on, I can move out of the way. It's a few cyclists that should go past. There we go. Brilliant. None of them actually took the bike path that's right here. I know, their choice. Oh, one did. Okay, fair enough. What was I saying? Gacha. Yes. So people saying all the time, oh yeah, gacha sucks, or it's not an art form, or, you know, it has, you know, Minecraft is so much better in all different ways and stuff like that. It's like, there's two sides to it, and you have to pick which one works for you, basically. For me, I saw the infinite potential of gacha so long ago, and realized, oh, this is perfect, because I've wanted to do something like this for a long time. I mean, I can't exactly draw, not very well anyway. I'm not going to be able to devote the time needed for a full animation, because that would be ludicrous, especially when I was doing all the visuals myself at the time. But I want to do something that is scripted, not be limited by. I guess that's why I don't want to do, like, I do ambitious visuals. I would need to buy the visuals that I can pull off in Minecraft or something. Maybe that's just some side effect of that. I have to psychoanalyze myself a little bit later to see if that's a symptom or not. But yeah, I didn't want to have to be bound by that, and I wanted something that would be easy to actually pull off something, a show. It didn't have to last for 3 years, even though it did, but here we are, again, still talking about it so long after it first started, which again is somewhat of a rarity. But yeah, and I have the team now. I know that some of them, I think, want to go into different forms of animation later, or want to evolve their craft with scripting or editing, or however it might actually go, their own endeavors and channels and etc. But the fact is that I wouldn't have actually been able to get there if it weren't for gacha, because I wouldn't have met anyone in the team except for Aiden. I would have met Aiden because he found me through my AFMAL videos. I would have met most people on the team if it weren't for gacha. Most of the voice actors I know, that my connections that I've found now are actually based on gacha itself. I did a whole presentation about this at one point, about my story with the Muse and Go and with the gacha community itself. I think I need to rework that for a video sometime, just to really tell people like what the good sides of this very, very looked down upon community actually are, and also how the Minecraft community is like no better in some aspects. It's a whole thing, but yeah, I've got time for that. Who knows? Maybe that's going to make it into the 10-year compilation that I do. Who knows? But yeah, I guess now that I hear myself talking about these things, I realize why a lot of people in the anniversary video actually said that I'm the reason that they got more into the gacha community, or that that I've, you know, made some sort of difference other than, you know, gacha related things. Well, not gacha related, other than getting them in, made a difference when they were already involved with it. And yeah, like, again, all that is fantastic praise, but you know, I guess I can sort of see where they're coming from now, in a way that I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but I can see where they're coming from just because of, you know, the way that I talk about things. And yeah, part of like 70% of being right is sounding confident, but you got to have that foundation to really solidify it. And I think I've got that now, because I've been in the Gacha community since 2018. I've been on YouTube since 2013, obviously, because of the whole 9 years thing. So even if I haven't, you know, if I haven't like properly blown up or anything, I still have plenty of knowledge to impart. I just need marketing, and actually somebody actually offered to help with marketing fairly recently, which reminds me, I need to talk to them about that. Make sure that whole thing is going to go off. Yeah, questions for later. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just I think that's it. So yeah, I hope to carry on doing those things actually. I hope to continue learning, to continue teaching, to continue, I guess, being the person that everyone seems to that everyone views me as. Not that that's an inaccurate representation of myself. I'm just saying that I hope I don't end up changing for the worse over time. Because yeah, I'm at a pretty good point now, but that can very easily change because that's just the nature of YouTube and everything. But yeah, I really hope it doesn't. So yeah, here's to another 9 years, because why the heck not? Why should I stop? I'm already at this point. I'm not giving up, clearly, because I never end up doing so all those times I thought I was going to back in the day. But yeah, needless to say, please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, because I'm going to be here for that. And on that note, until next time, farewell.